In 2004, Iyengar wrote a book called The Art of Less, and in it he said, "We buy into the myth of unlimited choice believing that we can have it all. But this very abundance has led us to feel more discontent than prior generations who had so much less. So why is it that with more options available to us than ever before, we seem to be more unhappy? Why does having it all mean wanting nothing? Well, there's an idea called the paradox of choice. And here are 7 signs that too many options are ruining your life. No. 1. You're stuck in analysis paralysis. When we're faced with too many options, we often get stuck in analysis paralysis. Our brains simply weren't designed to deal with this level of choice. In the early 90s, researchers Sheena Iyengar and Mark Lepper did a study where they put out bowls of gourmet cookies in the lobby of a California tech company. They offered either 8 different kinds of cookies or 30 different kinds of cookies. And what they found was that when there were fewer cookies to choose from, people took between 5 to 7 cookies per person, but when there were 30 cookies to choose from, people felt so overwhelmed by the amount of choice that they took no cookies at all. Of the 300 people that passed by the table when there were 30 cookies, not a single person took a cookie. We need constraints, we need limitations, we need rules. All of these things help our brain focus on just the important information, which allows us to make decisions faster and move forward in life. Number 2, you expect perfection. With more options comes higher expectations. And research shows that the more options we have, the less satisfied we are with the decision that we make. In 1996, researchers Daniel Gilbert and Timothy Wilson conducted an experiment where they asked participants to imagine that they were trying to decide whether to buy a new car. They were told that they could either pay for the entire cost of the car upfront or they could finance the car by paying $5,000 now and then another $5,000 6 months later. Now, if you were to ask me, this is a pretty easy decision. Paying $5,000 now and then another $5,000 6 months later is way better than paying the whole $10,000 upfront. But according to their survey, when given 11 different financing options, most people preferred to pay the full price upfront. This is called the expectation effect. And it means that the more options we have, the higher our expectations become, which makes us less likely to be satisfied with whatever option we ultimately choose. No. 3. You feel more regret. According to psychiatrist Dr. Robert Sapolsky, the more choices we have, the more regretful we feel about our lives. As the number of options increases, the more we start to think about all of the other options that we didn't choose. And this creates a feeling of dissatisfaction because we always feel like the grass is greener on the other side. So not only do we tend to regret not choosing other options, but we also blame ourselves more for the negative outcomes of the options that we do choose. In a 2004 study, psychologists Jonathan Haidt and Elizabeth Gilbert asked participants to recall a decision they made in the past that turned out badly. Then they asked them to rate how much their decision was caused by internal factors, like the character of the decision maker, versus external factors, like the situation they were in. Participants reported that internal factors had much more influence over the bad outcome than external factors. But when the researchers reversed the instructions and told them to think of a good decision they made, the opposite was true. Participants blamed external factors like the situation they were in instead of internal factors like their own character. Basically, we tend to blame ourselves for the bad decisions that we make, but we blame external factors for the bad decisions that other people make. And this is called the fundamental attribution error. And it means that the more options we have, the more likely we are to blame ourselves when things don't go our way. No. 4. Your mind is racing. Have you ever felt like your mind is running constantly? You're thinking about what you should eat, what you should wear, what you should say, what you should do. You can't seem to shut your brain off. Well, this is called the overthinking problem, and it happens when we have too many options. Too many options cause us to overthink every little decision because we fear making the wrong one. And as you probably already know, overthinking doesn't help us make better decisions. It usually just makes us feel worse. One way to avoid overthinking is to set some constraints. Create some rules, create some boundaries around the decisions that you're making. If you want to stop overthinking what you should wear, you might say, I'm only going to wear black shirts. I'm only going to wear jeans. Or if you want to stop overthinking what you should eat, you could try something like I'm only going to eat chicken and broccoli or pizza. By limiting your options, you can make decisions faster and stop overthinking. Number 5. Every day feels the same. If you have too many options in your life, every day can start to feel the same. When we're faced with too many choices, we often default to the same small number of options, and this is called the subset illusion. For example, if you have thousands of songs in your music library, you may only listen to the same 10 or 20 songs on repeat. Or if you have hundreds of friends on Facebook, you may only message the same 5 or 10 people over and over again. When we have too many options, we feel overwhelmed, so we limit our choices to a familiar subset of the larger group. And this ends up making our life feel boring and uninspired because we're not taking advantage of all of the opportunities that are out there. Number 6. Opportunity costs are high. When we're faced with too many options, the opportunity cost of not choosing something can feel incredibly high. This is called the sunk cost fallacy or faulty reasoning, and it's the idea that once we've invested time, energy, or resources into something, we feel like we have to continue investing in it even if it is not a good use of our time anymore. For example, let us say you're spending time with someone and the time you spend with them feels forced and fake and you don't enjoy it. But because you've already spent time with them, you feel like you have to continue spending time with them even though you don't want to. You can escape the sunk cost fallacy by setting constraints or deadlines. If you know that you're only going to spend 1 hour with that person, then you won't feel like you wasted time if you leave after an hour. Also, you don't have to worry about the sunk cost fallacy when it comes to material things, because material things don't really bring happiness. So you won't fall victim to the sunk cost fallacy when it comes to buying new clothes or a new phone or a new car. But you will fall victim to it when it comes to spending time with people. So the best thing to do is to tell people no more often and stop wasting time with people that you do and enjoy being around. And finally, number 7, freedom becomes a burden. When we have too many options, freedom becomes a burden. There's a quote that says, "The more options a person has, the less free they are." And I think this is especially true today because we live in a world that tells us we can have it all. But the truth is that we can't. And the more we believe that we can, the more miserable we'll be. Psychologist Barry Schwartz talks about 2 types of people in his TED Talk, the paradox of choice. He calls them satisficers and maximizers. A satisficer is someone who, when faced with a decision, chooses an option that is good enough. A maximizer is someone who wants the best possible outcome and spends an inordinate amount of time searching for it. A maximizer will never be satisfied because they are always looking for something better. So the key to escaping the paradox of choice is to stop trying to maximize everything and instead focus on being a satisficer. What does this look like? Well, first, we need to realize that we can't have it all. We need to accept that we lines have to give up some things in order to focus on others. Second, we need to set some constraints. We need to create some boundaries around our decisions. Instead of trying to consider every single option, we should just focus on the important ones. Third, we need to stop overthinking things. Overthinking doesn't help us make better decisions. It usually just makes us feel worse. And fourth, we need to learn to be okay with making mistakes. Not every decision we make is going to be the right one. And that's okay. We just need to learn from our mistakes and move on. So I hope this video helps you realize that sometimes less can actually be more. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.